everyone? This is Russell Clay here, bringing to you some Week 10 running backs, and I think we got an interesting slate ahead for us on DraftKings. Obviously with some of the high-end options that we're going to want to use, but also some interesting values as well. As always, if you want to check out this article after the video, head over to dailyfantasycafe.com and read that there. If you don't like reading, that's probably why you're here. And hey, join the party. Reading is terrible. So we will voice the plays and the words to you, and that's how we're going to figure this out. To start things off, I think we're going to look at David Johnson, 8,400. I mean, we don't have to spend much time on this, but 84 against, what San Francisco's been doing the last few weeks. That run D is just an abomination. So we're going to throw David Johnson into every lineup and don't even think about it. It's not even debatable. If you want to debate it with me, I'm going to shout at you. And actually, I'm not going to shout. I'm not going to be angry. I'm going to be disappointed that you didn't play him. I mean, he's just incredible for the basic points here, and supremely athletic and facing a defense that just allows 150 rushing yards to the starter a game. It's just totally egregious, and he's going to get 35 to 40 fantasy points. So just throw him in. Don't even worry about it and log out. Ezekiel Elliott, I'm definitely in on him again. It's just, with David Johnson right in that range, I think you kind of go with Johnson there. However, I mean, I'm not opposed to playing, those two together. You still got 5K left. If you find a value quarterback, you can certainly figure that out. Le'Veon Bell, I'm going to take the week off from, I think. Not because he's a bad play. I just like Zeke more, and I clearly like David Johnson more. So I think that's an easy way to roll there. Melvin Gordon, again, just incredible. What he's been able to do over the last, 9 games. After a rough rookie year, really turned it around. Gets to face this Miami defense that is not horrible against the run, but just overall with what he brings to the table, I think we're looking at a really strong fantasy output once again. So fire away there and just kind of, take that one in stride. Not really looking at Devontae Booker. I know it's a good matchup, but I think we can fire away with Jay Ajayi here and Melvin Gordon and feel much more comfortable that they're going to get the workhorse carries that you need to compete at running back this year. I mean, it's just been a totally different ball game. I'm not really looking at DeMarco Murray either, or Devontae Freeman, or Spencer Ware, or Lamar Miller, or Jaquiz Rodgers, or Matt Forte. So there's kind of a big drop-off for me after that top group. I think you can kind of just chill down here. I mentioned Jordan Howard in the write-up. I think, going against that Tampa Bay defense is something you really want to, hang your hat on. In a good matchup, this is where Howard is supposed to, really thrive. I know he did well against Minnesota last time out, but this should be another matchup where he just dominates. Even though, I don't necessarily think he's a dominant player, but, above average players in great matchups should do well from a fantasy perspective. So I think that's something to evaluate there. Mark Ingram, not touching him. You can have fun with that. I know he had a big game last week, but yeah, okay. Not against Denver. I know the run D's been awesome, or awesome to target, I should say, but not something I'm looking at. Todd Gurley, held out of practice. I don't think it's any worry for him actually playing, but, something to keep an eye on. While he hasn't been like great. He's kind of sustained a little value here by being more involved in the receiving game. Um, so it's not great, it's not pretty, but if he's getting these catches, it's not a terrible gamble against this Jets D. I know their run D's awesome, but they have some holes, and he could potentially make a big play. So 5,300. I mean, it's certainly not the pricing we were seeing early in the year. So yeah, he's just been steadily going down here. So I think we can start to look at him in that range. Um, moving down here, Derrick Henry, Tevin Coleman, probably not going to play. James White, not necessarily someone I'm looking at, even though he does have some PPR appeal. Darren Sproles, really the guy I'm targeting in on, honing in on, as you could say. After really getting random touches through the first 7 or so weeks of the season, we're really starting to see Sproles become the starter here. As you can see, 16 and 20 touches the last 2 weeks. That's way more than what he's seen the rest of the year. Doug Peterson has admitted that he is the starter. 4,300 is something I'm intrigued by against this Atlanta team. I know they've been better, but again, there's some holes in that ship. They are not a perfect defense, and a guy like Darren Sproles will certainly find those and take advantage of that. So, as I said in the article, one big play and you're playing with house money. I think that is something to potentially exploit at 4,300. I like that if you're not paying up at running back. As far as gambling below that, you can look at Chris Thompson. A reasonable floor for a 4K guy, but he really needs a touchdown or something big to happen to really, hit anything big. And he's playing a good defense, so I'm not necessarily looking too hard at him. This is where it gets interesting. So TJ Eldon, obviously, outplayed by Chris Ivory last week. There's no debating that. But, with the new offensive coordinator, that receiving production was there. You got that touchdown, 5 catches, 32 yards. The receiving game production was there. He did lose a fumble, but so didn't Chris Ivory. Chris Ivory's lost a fumble in 3 straight games. I think they're going to try to establish the run once again. And I think Yeldon has some PPR upside at 3,700. But, it's kind of tough to suggest him and tell someone to play him at this stage. It's just too far out there. CJ Prosise, a guy, super high upside if you want it. Against this New England team, if you're playing Brady Gronk, maybe you sneak in Prosise with that lineup. If you think it's going to be a blowout for the Patriots, then certainly get Prosise exposure because he is the receiving down back there. Pete Carroll talking about upping his touches. I'm really excited to see what he can do. 3rd-round pick this year, super athletic for his size. Out of Notre Dame, was a wide receiver, converted to running back his junior and senior season. So, or I should say junior season. Really interesting guy. Obviously had that broken hand, but he's not really limited anymore. Should be good to go. So, if he's going to get a full plate of snaps, this could blow up here. I think this is a dynamite situation that you want to get on before everyone else does. So it's going to be something. I'm not going to go crazy with this week, but I think you do want to get exposure, at least in tournaments. Going down the line here, Ronnie Illman's been playing the best of these running backs, but I'm not too excited about him. I see people picking him up in season-long leagues. Yeah. And I should specify deep season leagues that are dynasty leagues, but don't do that. Chris Ivory, jeez. ran well, ran really well. You just worry about the fumbles. That's 3 fumbles. Obviously, only lost one, but keep an eye on that. At 3,400, the gamble is worth it. If they want to go to him, obviously a talented player. So I think he's worth the bet of getting a rushing touchdown and 80 yards. If he gets you 14 points, you're happy. So certainly willing to look at that. Not the highest ceiling though. So kind of limited there. I think that's generally speaking what we're looking at here. Again, CJ Prosise, TJ Yeldon, really the guys you would want to gamble on low range, and then Darren Sproles at 43, someone you want to look at. And then, I forgot to mention LeGarrette Blount, the other guy in that game other than Prosise. Blount's got a nice floor, hasn't had less than 10 DK points this year. I really think this is a guy that you want to fire away with. 4,900, I think there's a good chance at a rushing touchdown. Seattle's defense is good, but not quite as good as we've seen in recent years. So that's kind of what we're looking at here. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. The cream has risen. JHI is 7K now. You can throw DeMarco Murray in anytime, at any point. It doesn't matter if he doesn't run well. Still going to get those touchdowns, still going to get those receptions. When the running game isn't working, they just go to him more in the passing game. So we've seen that multiple times this year. I just think, he's the feature guy there. So that's just the way it goes. As always, if you have any questions, hit me up on Twitter. If you like what we're doing here, give us a like and subscribe on the YouTube channel. If you like what we're doing here, check it out on the site, dailyfantasycafe.com. Check out this article. And as always, thanks for tuning in, and we will see you guys next week.